This is the complete timeline of human evolution, from the first ape-like creatures that dared to walk upright 7 million years ago, to the remarkable species now watching this video. It's a story far messier, far stranger, and far more fascinating than any textbook diagram of a chimp slowly standing up and becoming a businessman with a briefcase. We start at the very beginning, not with us, not even close to us. About 7 million years ago, somewhere in what is now the African continent, a lineage split. One branch would eventually produce chimpanzees and bonobos, the other would produce us. The earliest evidence from our side of that split comes from an unlikely place, not East Africa, where most famous fossils have been found, but Chad, in Central Africa. In 2001, a researcher named Ahonta Jemdomalbaya unearthed a skull in the Jurab Desert. The following year, French paleontologist Michel Brunet announced the find in the journal Nature. They called it Sahelanthropus tchadensis, dating it to between 6 and 7 million years old. Its brain was tiny, around 360 cubic centimeters, roughly the size of a chimpanzee's. But its face was flatter than any ape's, and its canine teeth were smaller. Something was already changing. Here's what makes a hominin a hominin. It's not big brains, it's not tools, it's not language. It's walking upright. Bipedal locomotion. That single trait connects every species in our lineage, from Sahelanthropus all the way to you and me, and it appears to have evolved shockingly early, millions of years before brains got bigger or tools appeared. Jump forward a couple million years, and we meet Ardipithecus. Ardi, the most famous specimen, was found in Ethiopia and dated to 4.4 million years ago. She could walk upright but also climbed trees with ease. As paleoanthropologist Tim White put it, "We have seen the ancestor, and it's not a chimpanzee." Ardi showed us that our earliest relatives weren't just slightly modified chimps. They were something else entirely. Then comes one of the most famous chapters in all of science. On November 24, 1974, paleoanthropologist Donald Johnson and his graduate student Tom Gray were surveying a site in Ethiopia's Afar region when they spotted a small piece of bone. What they eventually uncovered was roughly 40% of a skeleton, an astonishing amount for a fossil that old. She was 3.5 feet tall, about 60 to 65 pounds, with a brain somewhere between 375 and 500 cubic centimeters. She was 3.18 million years old. They named her Lucy because that night at camp the team was celebrating, and the Beatles song "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds" played on repeat. The name stuck. Lucy became the most famous fossil in the world. She belonged to the species Australopithecus afarensis, a group of small-bodied, small-brained hominins that lived in East Africa between 3.85 and 2.95 million years ago. That's a span of over 900,000 years, roughly 3 times longer than our own species has existed. As Dr. Emma Feenstone of the Cleveland Museum of Natural History explains, Lucy provided evidence that the transition to bipedalism happened early in our evolution, and that hominins were fully bipedal over 3 million years ago. New fossils from Ethiopia have revealed that early members of our genus Homo lived side by side with a newly identified species of Australopithecus nearly 3 million years ago, and a mysterious 3.4 million year old partial foot called the Bertolli foot, with an opposable big toe designed for grasping branches, has now been linked to Australopithecus denisovans, a completely different species that lived alongside Lucy's kind. This wasn't a ladder, it was a bush, with multiple branches growing at the same time. Around 2.8 million years ago, something remarkable happened. A partial jawbone found at Naledi Geraru in Ethiopia represents the earliest known evidence of our genus, Homo. By 2.6 million years ago, someone, and we're still not sure which species, started making stone tools. The age of technology had begun. Then came Homo erectus, And this species changed everything. They carried the first truly human-like body proportions. Long legs, shorter arms, a frame built for walking long distances. Around 1.8 million years ago, they became the first hominins to leave Africa, and they may have been the first to cook food. Their fossil record stretches over 1.5 million years, making them the longest surviving human species we know of. Throughout this period, brains were growing, from the 300 to 500 cubic centimeters of the Australopithecines. Cranial capacity climbed steadily, eventually tripling over the full course of human evolution to reach an average of about 1,352 cubic centimeters in modern humans. By 800,000 years ago, there's evidence of controlled fire use, a milestone that transformed diet, social behavior, and survival. Around 500,000 years ago, the lineage leading to Neanderthals and their mysterious cousins, the Denisovans, diverged from our own. The oldest Neanderthal fossils come from Cima de los Huesos in Spain, dating to about 430,000 years ago. And Neanderthals were no brutes. They crafted tools, spoke a language, built hearths, practiced medicine, buried their dead, and created art. Meanwhile, something strange was unfolding in South Africa. In 2013, paleoanthropologist Lee Berger led a team into the Rising Star Cave system and found something staggering: 1,550 bone specimens, representing at least 15 individuals of a completely new species, Homo naledi. Its brain was tiny, primitive, but it lived between 335,000 and 236,000 years ago, meaning it overlapped with early Homo sapiens. Even more puzzling, the cave chambers contained almost exclusively Homo naledi remains, leading Berger's team to conclude this small-brained species was deliberately disposing of its dead. And then there's us. Homo sapiens first appeared in Africa around 300,000 years ago. By that point, our brains were already within the modern size range, though brain shape kept evolving, until somewhere between 100,000 and 35,000 years ago. By 110,000 years ago, we were crafting ornamental beads. We were becoming symbolic creatures. The Great Migration out of Africa came roughly 70,000 to 50,000 years ago, and when modern humans reached Eurasia, they met the Neanderthals. Research from December 2024 pinpoints the interbreeding to a window starting about 50,500 years ago and lasting roughly 7,000 years. The result is written in our DNA today. All modern humans outside Africa carry between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA. And then there are the Denisovans. A recently discovered rib bone suggests they survived in Eastern Asia until just 32,000 years ago. Modern Melanesians, Aboriginal Australians, and Filipino Negritos carry roughly 5% Denisovan DNA. Scientists have even identified a single individual, a teenage girl who was a first-generation hybrid, her mother a Neanderthal, her father a Denisovan. The most revolutionary shift in our understanding arrived just this year. For decades, the standard model was straightforward. One population in Africa gave rise to all modern humans. Genetic studies published in 2025 in Nature Genetics tell a different story. By analyzing DNA from diverse modern African groups, especially the Nama people, researchers found that humans likely evolved from multiple intermingling populations over hundreds of thousands of years. As Professor Richard Durbin put it, our evolutionary origins are more complex, involving different groups that developed separately for more than 1 million years, then came back together to form the modern human species. By around 12,000 years ago, the agricultural revolution began, and in the blink of an evolutionary eye, we went from small bands of hunter-gatherers to cities, to written language, to spacecraft. 7 million years, dozens of species, most of them extinct. The lesson from all of it is that human evolution was never a straight line. It was a tangled web of species living alongside each other, sometimes competing, sometimes interbreeding, sometimes vanishing without a trace. We are not the pinnacle of a ladder. We're the last one standing in a very crowded room that has slowly emptied, and the science of understanding who else was in that room and what happened to them has never moved faster than it does right now.